So Ivars, I am excited to know, being that I'll be singing this with you, why are we doing this at the end of the season? What was the purpose of programming that?
Well, it's the 40th season of Tafelmusik, and a big splash. It's the final concert of the season. We are, of course, pairing this magnificent Magnificat together with a big Zelenka Mass. I think they are great foils for one another because Bach knew Zelenka, they admired each other's work, and so Zelenka even traveled to Leipzig and stayed with Bach for a while. So I thought the connection between the two, Dresden and Leipzig as well. Dresden is where Bach wanted to have a post, hoped to have a post, wrote his B minor Mass as a kind of calling card. So yeah, the festive Zelenka Mass and then this amazingly festive Magnificat by Bach.
So Ivars, why don't you talk to us a little bit about a Magnificat and tell us about Bach's Magnificat.
Magnificat is a very old text. The opening line is, "My soul doth magnify the Lord." It is, we think, Mary singing this, it's called the Song of Mary, singing this to her cousin Elizabeth, who she was visiting, and Elizabeth was pregnant with St. John the Baptist. And so with this news, she sang this song. It became part of not only the Catholic service, but also Lutheran. Anglicans have it as well. The Eastern Orthodox have this. It's an ancient song, just like the Songs of Solomon. And it has been set to music throughout history. Monteverdi, if you think of the Monteverdi Vespers, there's a Magnificat in that. Vivaldi Magnificat, there's many composers set the text to music. Bach, we only have the one setting by him, and he composed it in his very first year in Leipzig as Thomas Cantor. He obviously wanted to make a splash, and Vesper services are not like a Mass, so you don't have a lot of time to do a lot of music. You know, the priests start getting anxious. So this piece is amazingly concise, but has a huge variety of choruses and arias and duets and instrumentations that make it kind of unique. So as I mentioned, in a Vesper service, there isn't much time to do an extended work. And you, of course, were involved in our recent performance of his St. Matthew Passion with Maestro Masaki Suzuki. And I'm wondering, now that you've had that experience of a 3-hour plus Passion, what's it like? How does it compare with the Magnificat that we've been rehearsing?
I've been thinking about this because it's Bach now back to back.
Yeah.
Back to back Bach.
Bach to Bach.
Yes, Bach to Bach. And the role of the choir is very different, I think, in the two pieces. So at the St. Matthew is this epic piece where the choir has a couple of roles. I think we are characters in the story, and then we are also ourselves in some ways, reflecting, reflecting on this experience, and then it's 3 hours. And it's not ending very well, and you have to go through this emotional experience as characters and as a person reflecting on this.
Yeah.
The Magnificat, I think just based on the nature of the piece and its function, our role is very different. We are kind of the vessel, in a way. The music and the worship, as it would have been used, come through us. And so we have a role, a job, the church musician, in a way.
As you would in a Mass.
Yeah. And then also this is a concert setting, so we're performing it, and so it's just a different experience as a choir member. So Ivar, Zelenka is one of these composers that we have.
Zelenka who?
Zelenka.
That's usually
Zelenka
what an audience.
Right. Zelenka is one of these composers that is kind of new for us in Tafelmusik, but has become a bit of a staple for us in seasons.
Yeah.
I always enjoy really singing his music, But could you tell me when you first came in contact with Zelenka, why he was interesting to you, and then how you found this mass?
Well, Tafelmusik, when I was still playing viola in the orchestra in its very early days, we played an instrumental work by Zelenka called the Hypochondry.
Okay.
And it is a wild and crazy piece. Zelenka is kind of offbeat.
Literally.
Yeah,
I find.
In the way he treats a melody or a subject matter, or the harmonies he decides to explore, or the amount of repetition he can manage to sustain without you going, okay, let's move on now. Somehow he has this quirkiness about him. And I find that it's also like effervescence, which is so much what Dresden was all about. They called it the Venice of the North.
Okay.
So if you think of Canaletto's paintings of the Grand Canal and the waves on the water and all the gondolas, Dresden was doing the same thing with its great river and its Baroque buildings. So in the midst of all this, there is this, it's a hotbed of invention. And that's what Zelenka grabbed onto when he arrived as a bass player in the orchestra.
Okay.
And never achieved, the court composer, but got pretty darn close and wrote some amazing choral works. The first of which we discovered as a group in Tafelmusik when we worked with Frieder Bernius and the Stuttgart Kammerchor, the Stuttgart Chamber Choir. And we did a performances and recording of a mass called Missa Dei Fili. And we discovered this weird and wonderful and wacky composer. And then I decided that I would present this work here in Toronto with our choir. And the audience, everyone said, as I just said, Zelenka who? Our marketing department was going, how are we going to sell this? But there was something about it that caught the imagination of the public. And it's become, as you say, a kind of staple, a part of our menu, if you will, that people are asking, so when are you going to do Zelenka next? And over the seasons, I've explored quite a number of his great masses, the ones that he wrote towards the end of his life. So I think it's really, for me, an ongoing exploration of Zelenka's works. I'm indebted to the Zelenka specialist, Václav Lux, who, with his own orchestra and choir, has put Zelenka on the map pretty well single-handedly, and has edited from the very messy manuscripts, edited numerous of these masses, and he's constantly coming out with more and more finds. And then I happened to hear a recording of this mass that he performed at the Utrecht Festival some years back, and I thought, oh yes, this is a dandy one to end the season, and here we are at the 40th season. Perfect.
Yes.
So I'm interested to know, we talked about what it's like to sing and perform Bach, and comparing the Magnificat to the Matthew Passion. But what's it like for you singing Zelenka?
Yeah, Zelenka and Bach are very different and yet the same, coming from the same period and area of the world, same time. But Zelenka, like you were mentioning, has this feeling of fun, I find. I get the sense that this was a guy who wanted to have a good time in church, and he's got all of these little things that he uses, these syncopations, these leaping lines.
It's almost like Bach can get jazzy, but Zelenka just goes one step further.
That's his thing, I think, and even he plays with the rhythm, the phrase coming in between strong beats.
Yes.
So to sing Zelenka, for me, with both Bach and Zelenka, there's this real challenge in these two pieces. There's so many moving parts for the choir. So the idea of creating a good ensemble,
Yeah.
it takes time,
Yeah.
even within a section, phrasing together, being together. You want to make sure all of those notes all line up, and then across the choir too, right?
Yeah.
Knowing when to step forward, when to step back, which is what we do in our rehearsals. Zelenka, I think with his spirit for fun, sometimes he's
Paint
thinking
spot.
fun,
Yeah.
and we need to really work to bring the meaning of that text across. We're singing liturgical music,
That's true.
and this had a real function in a space,
Yeah.
and so that connecting into that, I think, is the big thing with
Yeah.
Zelenka, and then having fun with it.
Yes.
Bring on the trumpets.
On behalf of Corey, myself, the Tafelmusik Orchestra and Chamber Choir, I hope you'll join us for this wonderful season finale of our 40th anniversary season for Bach's Magnificat and Zelenka's Misi Divi Sieveri.